Welcome. My name is Noémie Ott. I'm the chair of the Young EFC, for those of you who do not know me yet. I'm very happy to have Jörg today with us to discuss his career. I guess most of you have met Jörg at least once at Eurocore or through different events in the corrosion community. I will not say more than that, and I will just leave the floor. Jörg?
Yeah, thank you, Noémie, for inviting me to this exciting adventure. It's the first time for me that I'm not talking purely about science. So you can expect also some anecdotes or some side information which are not typically discerned on scientific meetings. Yeah, I'm now working since 33 years as a scientist in industry. Actually, I'm working in the same company since 33 years. This is completely unusual nowadays. Even HR asked me whether I'm so, let's say, sticky to my chair, or if I'm not flexible enough to have changed the company in between. But on the other hand, companies need long-term fellows in order to keep knowledge and to foster young people. Okay, so jumping into the, now it's getting difficult. I have to change. Oop. So can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, I was born on the 1st of March, 61 in Lörrach, the southwest end of Germany. That is close to Switzerland. Here is Basel, the biggest city in that area. Also France is quite at the border, so it's a very nice area. It's a winemaking area with a lot of good food, and you have the benefits of the three countries: chocolate from Switzerland, cheese from France, and sausages and wine from Germany. Okay, first contact with chemistry, I was about 9 years old. A teacher of mine took a beaker and added 2 tablespoons of water, of salt into water, and it was a turbid solution, and he asked if somebody wants to drink that, and I said no. And he said why, and I said it's salty. And then he filtered the turbid liquid. Then after that, it was a clear liquid. And he asked, and would you like to drink it now? And I resisted, and I said, no, it's still salty. And that was the right answer for a 9-year-old boy. And therefore, he gave me this testing tube, glass testing tube, which I had for some years until it broke. Then, after a while, I had my my own, I don't know why I cannot move the slides. What happened? My own lab in the basement, and the first main experiments were on gunpowder, and that is a very clear target for each boy in that age. We had to make some gunpowder. The problem is I had no balance. I had to do it volume-wise, and there the mixture is completely different. So I had to do really experiments until I got a right mixture. Then after school, it was clear career aspiration. I want to study chemistry, but first I had to do compulsory military service in those years. And then finally in 1982, I started at university in Stuttgart in the Faculty of Chemistry. And the university, the faculty is a huge building, 10 floors, 50-meter high, 120-meter long. As you can see here on this picture. And I was very excited when I started my studies, because I was not top trained on chemistry. I was had a lot of courses in maths and physics, but not that many in chemistry. So I was a little bit nervous. But the biggest problem I had language problems. Although Stuttgart is a German city, it was not so easy, because I have a very strong dialect in that area. From Lörrach, we speak nearly Swiss German as a dialect, And that gave a lot of problems initially because I have to learn to speak somehow clean, proper German at the beginning of the study. The next issue was we were 180 freshman students in chemistry, but we had only 60 places in basic inorganic chemistry practical course at the beginning. So we had to pass an exam, and you can guess how many passed the exam. It was the accurate number of 60. I was lucky, I would belong to those 60. So I could continue my studies, and I have to speak about financial support. I was supported from my parents and grandparents, and I had money, 700 Deutschmark, which is now an equivalent, including inflation, which is now 780 euros. That was the money for everything: food, books, amusement, you like it. And that was for a period of 6 years sharp. Then the money has gone. You should know that the average study duration of chemistry degree was 7 years in those years. So I had to speed up. That was time pressure. I had to be able, that was for the target from the beginning, that I have to be able to earn my own money after 6 years. As a consequence, I had to work during the summer break for 8 to 10 weeks, and I worked as a forklift driver in a chemical plant, Lechler Chemie. You will recall the name. I will come back to this name later on. Okay, then in January 89, I got my diploma, not a master degree, in physical chemistry. And then in November 91, I made my PhD, Dr. Nat, in physical chemistry in the field of excited single-state kinetics. And you see that was a short term. It is 2.5 years. That is quite speedy, especially also in those years where in physical chemistry, the average time was in the range 4 to 5 years for a PhD. But my work was nearly purely computeral work, theoretical physical chemistry. And because I used a lot of programming in Fortran and supercomputer, Cray and others, I thought if I do only calculating chemical reactions in the excited singlet state, I should be fast. I should not spend too much time for my PhD, and therefore I decided to speed up significantly, and that was the reason why I was already ready with my PhD in November 91. Then I became the assistant of my Dr. Father, Professor Hauser at the Institute, and I wrote about 25 applications for employment in the chemical industry. And yeah, finally I got to start in May 1992 at Sika Chemie in Stuttgart. Funnily, it was exactly the same factory where I worked as a forklift driver over the summer holidays. But the people in the lab did not knew that, and that once they showed me to the factory, and I know the factory by heart because I know all the places where to drive with a forklift, but they did not know. So they were astonished that the workers called me with my first name, not with a family name, and even not Dr. Vogelsang. So they said, "Hello, Jörg, how are you?" And that was fun. And so they felt a little bit shocked that the workers from the factory speak so directly and informal with a doctor in chemistry. In those years, it was very formal in industry. So that was coatings industry. Also, it was a cultural shock, really. I worked from university. We were all students. We were all on the same level. We spoke to each other, not with titles, not with Herr or Frau, or with the German way. We have a more polite way. We say Sie, not you, not du. So it was all on this very informal level at university. In industry, it was very formal. In the first years, I even had a tie on the suit. So but that dropped soon. Then another, as I already said, everybody called me Herr Dr. Vogelsang. That was completely new for me. I had to get rid of that, but I was successful. And it was also a shock because I came from university. We had supercomputing facilities, Cray computer, Sun workstation at the institute. And then suddenly I had to work with a dispersive infrared spectrometer. Not a Fourier transform infrared spectrometer, what is state of the art nowadays, where you record a spectra within a second. This dispersive infrared spectrometer took 6 minutes to record a spectra. And the only technical thing was that we had a cross-cutting machine which made 6 scribes on a coated plate. Then you had to turn by 90 degrees C and then made another 6 scribes. That was what I had in the lab. However, Sika is, I don't know why it doesn't work, in Germany is, and I have to say was, the market leader in the field of heavy-duty corrosion protection with thick film coatings. And due to that fact that they were the market leaders, they decided we establish a new position, basic research in corrosion. That means Sika wanted to become visible, not only by their superior products in the market, but also by a person who is working actively in standardization, who can contribute to conferences, can publish, and can use company facilities for its work. And this work was it was a very promising start because although I found only very little instrumentation which I could use, I was allowed to buy significant instruments, and I had a really unusual freedom to do research and to publish results. So that was the beginning, and also in the beginning it was already announced after 5 years I will also take over the analytical department of Sika in Germany. So I had my own small group, up to 3-4 people working in my group doing basic research in corrosion, and then with a perspective to take over also the analytical department. So that was really a really nice start. And in industry, we do not publish that often in scientific papers. The most publications take part normally in patents, or in commercial publications where people are promising certain properties of their materials. And this happened also by one of the raw material providers. They said, we have here a raw material, very low viscous polyisocyanate. This coating can be used on rusty steel without derusting. You can directly paint on the rusty steel, and this isocyanate, this low viscous isocyanate, will penetrate the rust and will give good adhesion to subsequent coatings. So then I thought, okay, I will check it if that really penetrates. And here you see on this fluorescence microscopy of rust layer, you see exactly this isocyanate on the left-hand side. A cross section through the rust and the isocyanate, and on the right hand side you see the fluorescence microscopic picture, and there you see that there are some traces of this isocyanate in cracks of the rust, but the dense part of the rust is not fully penetrated. So this let's say tale, or nowadays we would say fake news, that the isocyanate can really penetrate the rust, this was simply not true. And this was then evidenced with these two pictures, and I published this in the German coatings newspaper. And so in industry, we are not only working on showing what goes in the right direction, we always show if something is not working properly and find the reason why it was not working properly. A side effect on this low viscous isocyanate is that the application was very difficult because the coating, if you worked above your head, the viscosity was so low that it was very difficult to use it, and that the coating was not running through the arms down to the shoes. So this product was not successful in the market. Another thing which we worked together with the University of Heidelberg, we called it laser reflections photometry. And this was set up like this in a glass container with a test liquid. We had a glass plate. On top of the glass plate, there was 20 nanometer of iron, vapor phase deposited iron. Then we coated that sample and we put it here in this test liquid. And from the back, we used the laser, and this metallic layer of 20 nanometer of iron reflected a laser beam, and we had a detector, and we recorded the time until this iron layer was destroyed due to the ingress of aggressive molecules from the test liquid. And so this was a very sophisticated method, but at the end it was not successful because this reflectometer is actually not needed. The experiment ran for several days, and that needs an instrument per sample. And on the other hand, it's much easier if you put that in the glass container on your shelf, and you walk by your samples once a day, and then you see very clearly if the mirror is still there or if the mirror has already been corroded by the penetrating test liquid through the coating. So also simple setups are used in industry, not always sophisticated. The level of sophisticated equipment came from University of Heidelberg. They also provided us with the vapor deposited glass plates, but then at the end we used it without a reflectometer. We put simply the beaker with a sample inside on the shelf and looked at it. Very easy, very simple. That was also the years where we started with electrochemical impedance spectroscopy. By the dimension of the monitor, you see how old the picture is. On the right-hand side, you see a very early picture of myself working in the lab, already wearing protective glasses. So you see, even in those years, safety was quite high in industry. But here you see the coffee mug of the lady, but we have no chemistry. It was just aqueous liquids where we tested coatings and such materials. So what is impedance? This is principal explanation of what is impedance or what is resistance. You see here the ohm tries to hinder the amp go through a tiny hole. The volt is helping. Yes, and impedance spectroscopy uses sinusoidal voltage. We record then the current response of the system. This is mainly used on coated steel plates, for example, with this setup, the testing cell. And in reality, we place such things in Faraday cages because these applications are extremely at the high end of resistance, close to a complete isolation. And for example, at the end, you get such spectra, Bode plot, that means a double logarithmic plot of modulus of the impedance over the frequency. Here, the logarithm of the impedance, here the logarithm of the frequency. The phase angle is plotted inversely linearly, and as you see, it's a double logarithmic plot that is very helpful to reduce or to give a better visibility of the dynamic of the system. So, and we use this technique, we try to work on it to find easier way or earlier degradation, access to degradation of the coatings, not to have to spend so many time with artificial testing, for example, on the roof of the factory or in Florida and exposure sites. And so we also try to see with impedance spectroscopy early stages of degradation of the coating. And these did also others. And I show you here, that is a kind of sketch what shows how people believe impedance work. You have an input signal, you have a black box, your electrochemical system, you have an output signal, and you measure something, and that what you measure can be fitted with some equivalent circuits, and what you get is perfect results, and you have no doubts about the outcome. You believe what you see because you do not understand the black box. And that was also our approach at the beginning, and but we recognized very soon, because in industry, one measurement is no measurement. We measure at least 3 samples, even more. So reproducibility and repeatability is a key in industry, much more, I'm sure, like in academia, where we sacrifice from time to time repeatability and reproducibility. And I show you one example where you can clearly see that there is a lack of proper understanding what is measured. There is lack of proper measurement, and there is a highly sophisticated interpretation of what is measured. You see a very nice equivalent circuit on the top, but what is the outcome in reality? I have doubts whether this is really true, and I don't want to go further into this example. Another one is what is published by the instrument manufacturer. They gave this accuracy contour plots, and then you can derive from those plots what are the measurement limits of your equipment. However, we realized that our equipment, which was promised to be able to measure 100 gigaohm, that we were not able to measure 1 gigaohm properly. So we had to improve our equipment until we were able to do it, to measure it properly. And that was, and it was in conjunction with the situation that a country in the eastern part of Europe started to ask for impedance spectra for coatings to be sold on their market. And they asked that coating should show an impedance of 100 mega ohm. But I knew that the instrument they had to verify that had an input resistance of 100 mega ohm. And that together with the unrealistic results we saw, and we saw also with others, I started a first round-robin test on impedance spectroscopy. I initiated it in '96, advertised it '97 on the Electrochemical Methods in Corrosion Research conference in Trento. And we performed it. You see here the dummy board with real capacitors and resistors. And at the end, we got results from several labs. At the end, it was only 6 labs who participated, but it was very clear that many of these labs had initially problems to find the values of the resistors and capacitors, and they used this round robin to improve their equipment, and at the end, they were able to measure it. I was bunked by Kedam, Takenuki, and Gabrieli mainly for the idea to make a round-robin test with hardwired resistors and capacitors. They said, how can you dare to not believe on what the manufacturers of the impedance spectrometer are claiming for their equipment? And I was supported by Florian Mansfeld, and he said, yeah, well done, continue, do it. I like that idea. So I, in that case, trusted more Florian and I obeyed his way, and we continued in that. And that gave me the direct access to standardization, also on impedance spectroscopy at the German Standardization Institute, but also on ISO level. We established the ISO 16773 in its 4 parts. We had another ISO standard 13129 on current interrupter technique, relaxation voltammetry, and the third one with accelerated cyclic electrochemical technique. And finally, we had published a technical report on sources of error in the use of electrochemical impedance spectroscopy for the investigation of coatings and other materials. I display another technical report, but I'm not proud of that, electrochemical noise measurement for assessing the protection of metals afforded by organic coatings, because I really believe electrochemical noise can only be measured if either the equipment is defect or the coating is defect. Okay, so we started a second round robin on coatings, and it was quite surprised to get such results in this case. Can you see here the red arrow? This plate was not even connected to the spectrometer. But beside of such obvious problems, we had very nice curves, as you can see here on the right-hand side. And that was the reason why we decided to go for a second round robin with dummy boards. We used this dummy cell, and we distributed it and asked the people to provide us with the results. We had more than 30 labs participating. And you should expect a curve, which is here the beige, the brownish curve, or here the purple curve. The others are obvious errors, deviations, noise. But we also had very good spectra, how it should look like. And from that, we were able to give some repeatability and reproducibility parameters. And as I can say, without outliers, we are very well in the accuracy of the capacitance, either from an RC model or taken at a single frequency. The modulus is, or even the modulus is quite good at without outliers. And not astonishing, if you increase the AC amplitude, the results get even better. This is Nyquist plot, and we plotted it by accident. It's kind of artistic vision of the round robin results, and this is my favorite picture. I think I will print it out and put it on the wall at home. It's really looking artistic, and it summarizes all the measurements, all the measured points we obtained in those round robin. Yeah, so now I come to the questions I got before I show some more pictures. How easy is to transition from academia to industry, and what are the necessary guidelines, and how complex and welcome is the step? Depends on own expectations. In industry, we really need new people. As I said, I'm going to retire. We have a significant number of people retiring in the next 5 to 10 years. So we really need desperately young people. That's the pull from industry. But it depends on the expectation of the person who is doing this transition. If you like to do basic research without really direct practical approach, or without the vision that it might become a product in the near future, because you are only interested in the question how it works and why it works, but there is no product idea behind, then possibly it's better to stay in academia world. I know that also in academia nowadays, all or many of the PhDs are paid by third-party projects or by European projects or other national projects. So the number of people really doing basic research without any application behind, I think this is a small number nowadays. That was different in my time at the university. So I assume that already at your master or at the PhD phase, you experience this contact with the real world, and that there should be something coming out of the experiments you do. Yeah, it's complex, and the major difference between university and industry is the level on social skills you need. You come from a university, you are so proud of your master or your PhD, and you're talking to each other on a very sophisticated level, and then you come to industry where you have suddenly contact with people from sales, from marketing, with lab technicians, and with other disciplines, not only chemistry, might be physics, and that is, you have adopt how you communicate in industry. It's different. You need a much higher level of, I would say, respect than you require at a university. We can discuss at the end if this is, if I answered your question properly, but we can discuss at the end. Then, what are the challenges and the benefits of being a scientist in industry? I begin with the benefits. It is probably easier to develop a career. That means if you want to get advanced on the hierarchy level or on the management level, it is easier possible in industry because there are some certain rules that is company dependent, how people are developed, how people are promoted. But it is certainly more steerable, that is more being influenced by yourself than at academia. In academia, you need PhD father who can promote you. He needs connections. However, it's not safe and not granted that you will become a professorship or professor and get a position. It is much more dependent, I would say, on luck compared to industry. Income certainly is a point. Income is certainly higher. Possibly not at the beginning, but after 5 to 10 years, income at industry is definitely higher than at universities. And in industry, if you can show that your projects bring money to the company, decisions can go very fast. That is, yeah, if you give a business case and a return on invest of your equipment you need, and you are below 2 years, the likelihood is high that you get the project. If you like to travel, yes, traveling is possible depending on the company rules. Traveling is also quite comfortable. We travel transatlantic flights to Asia or to the US, more than 6 hours. We travel business class. But that depends also on the company, and in some companies on the level or in the hierarchy, how you can travel. That were the benefits. The challenges are you have limited resources. That means not unlimited manpower, not unlimited time. The time pressure is high. You have less freedom of research, possibly no freedom. That means you have to work on projects which bring money to the company. And you have nice colleagues in marketing which already start to sell the product you are developing in the next 2 years. They start already to sell now. That means that gives high time pressure, faster time to market. And I'm allowed to say, I'm an old man, bullshitting is getting more and more important. And in German, we have the expression, wir treiben immer wieder dieselbe Sau durchs Dorf. That means today we call it innovation. Years before we called it technical development, socio-economic impact, sustainability, all those buzzwords, and also nowadays a certain amount of greenwashing. And if this is, in my opinion, a challenge, that you can resist to that and that you stay confident or happy with that. Then I got another question. An internal student in the final semester in Germany, certifications. The student got certification, cathodic protection, protective coatings from AMP, former NACE. And the question was, how valued are such international certifications in Germany and European job market, particularly in industry like corrosion? And additionally, beyond that technical qualifications, what are skills in industry and would make a candidate stand out to recruiters? Okay, AMP NACE is USA, partly also Asia and Middle East. So I know some paint inspectors in Germany who have also a NACE degree, but they are not paid for that. They are paid for Frosio or a European paint inspector. I think that answers the first part. Practical skills and craftsmanship are things which would stand out of others. For example, if we have a position for a PhD, and we just had 350 candidates. The biggest problem is that in Switzerland, not all countries are allowed, or not members from country, that not all residents of all countries are allowed to work in Switzerland. Only Europeans are allowed. So that reduced the number of applications from 350 to 300. Still, we had 50 candidates. And then we looked at it, and we published in the job offer very precise tasks the person have to do. If you apply for a position, read that and look if your experience really matches to what is asked for. It does not match if you ask for particle size distribution measurement. If someone worked at the CERN in Geneva and did physics, we ask for particle size distribution measurements and not for working at a synchrotron. So being so fair and clear and open in your application letter, and only apply if you really fit, if you fit to what the company is asking for. And what outstands then further is if someone had a practical period before the studies. We cannot ask that, but this is certainly a positive. I value that very high if someone has passed apprenticeship in chemistry or assistant in chemistry and then went on to bachelor in chemistry at the University of Applied Science and then continued to a university, made a master and even PhD. This shows a high level of dedication to the subject. If you are interested in more a management career after dealing with chemistry, possibly you're already a little bit fed up of all these scientific details, then it is for sure of help if you have a bachelor in business administration or even a master in business administration. But this is not the traditional entrance for chemists or scientists in industry. Okay, some simple key messages. They sound old-fashioned, but I still want to mention them. If you start working in industry, always demonstrate respect. Never try to be superior to anyone else and to reject some from greetings and so on. Collaborate effectively, exhibit humility while being confident. The cleaning staff and the housekeepers are more important than you because they are working in normally much longer time in the company and that place that you are on your position. So, and they know how you get toilet paper if there is a shortage. So they are really important people, and show respect to them, then they are so helpful and acknowledge the respect they receive from you. And this is very simple. Build connections both within and outside the organization. Use possibilities for networking in the company, but also go to conferences, seminars, and workshops. Personally, be authentic, transparent, and show your personality. And this shows the people who you are, and this might offer you the possibility for career. Maintain honesty and steer clear of misinformation. If you start dealing with misinformations, you will get on the wrong way, and this is not good. And try to approach situations critically and dare to question everything. And practice fairness and lead through example. I guess these are key messages, and if you try to obey part of them, then you're on a good track. In industry and also in standardization, we have a lot of meetings. And these are big number of people, but there are even bigger meetings. And this is possibly not so much fun to have such big meetings. There are other meetings which are much more fun, as you can see here. And that was the picture taken before the beer tasting. The faces looked still funny afterwards, but we were not able to stand that clear anymore after the tasting. But in reality, we have rather this kind of conferences where we sit and listen. But if you travel in industry, use the opportunity to form friendships. And this is a group of people I met over 25 years, frequently on ISO meetings. This is a picture from Montreal in Canada. And if you are interested in friendships, use the opportunity to get to meet friends. In the evenings, during the meeting, you can fight. In the evening, you should sit together, have lunch, have dinner, have a beer, and discuss about the most important things about family, about vacation in the next year, and so on. What I'm really missing is that nowadays it's not possible to smoke good cigars at meetings anymore. This is really a pity nowadays, but on the other hand, I really appreciate it very much that I can have a breakfast without smokers at the table next to me. And if you travel internationally, for example, on the ISO stands for International Sightseeing Organization. You are able to visit nice places, and you should always plan 1 day extra to do some touristic activities. If you once travel to China, the trip is so expensive. Expand 1 day, try to see some funny things. And if you travel to foreign places, try to be informed about the habits. If you are invited to a Chinese dinner, there are some rules, some do's and don'ts. Try to be familiar to those before you're traveling there. And then you can also sit together with natives, not only like here, a German delegation sitting isolated in China for dinner. But 5 years ago, we had to learn that there are new ways of communication, and this has still an influence. A lot of meetings are nowadays only virtually, like our meeting today, and this is good because we save energy, we save time. Not traveling. We can have 3 meetings a day with 3 different groups. In former years, that was simply not possible. But my recommendation is, if you only participate on virtual meetings, you will miss a significant aspect of forming networks. You need to meet the people. You need sometimes to have a beer together in order to learn how the person is structured and thinking in its heart. And yeah, so still nowadays we still have these problems. We do not hear, and you are unmuted. You have to switch the microphone and so on. So we are still on the beginning. In former years, when traveling through the countries, you saw some dangerous things. This was in Colombia. Speed was about 60 kilometers per hour. In former years, we had also the tradition that, at least in France, we had always a bottle of wine on the table. This is not the case anymore. And yeah, if you're traveling through other countries, you see jobs which are possibly not that what you like to do. So if you are unhappy in your current situation at your university, if you see such people, I think you should be quiet and not complain too much. As I mentioned, networking is important. Okay, from my point of view, also the food is important. And hopefully I showed you a little bit of what I experienced in the last years, and now we can continue. If you are still interested in what I'm doing at the moment. Oops, no. After June, I'm retired. You can follow me on Instagram. There you see my kind of photography. This will be a major activity in the next years. I am active as a photographer since the mid of the 70s, when I had my first photo apparatus. So please feel free to follow me on Instagram. And yeah, this is the final sketch from Frank Kunert. I like it very much. And I thank you for your attention, and I wish you all the best for the future. And if you have questions, you can start right now.
Thank you, Jörg. Are there questions from the audience? No? Then I have one. You have shown that when you started at Sika, you had kind of a lot of freedom about what you were able to do. Do you think that was it specific to Sika, or was it just the time that allowed that? Which means that if now someone starts a career at Sika or in another company, would that still be the case? So would they still be allowed, or would they still have this freedom? Or now, because of the current situation we are, the constraint make it that there is not that much freedom anymore?
Exactly. The times are much harder nowadays. Time is more tight, and money is more tight. And it was a special situation. Sika wanted to do something in basic research. They earned a lot of money with their materials, so their coatings, being market leader. If you drive through Germany, more than 50% of the bridges over waterways are coated with Sika materials, of the sludges and so on. So it's a really high market penetration. So that was a very, very lucky situation that the company decided to start on basic research, with a focus also to shorten weathering conditions. They expected the benefit from it. It was not purely free research, but I think nowadays the level of freedom is very much reduced.
Okay. And how do you see, like, because you stay in Sika for so long, so you saw as well the evolution of the organic coating field, and I would like a bit your perspective about it. So what was the major change and where are we heading? Because you kind of help shaping a bit the European landscape, or at least I discovered yesterday that you actually was a funder of the Working Party coatings at EFC.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about why you wanted, or why do you think it's important to have this Working Party, and how the field evolved since like you started in '92 since now? So.
Yeah, at the beginning it was mainly organic coatings, and then suddenly metallic coatings popped up, and then very soon these sol gel coatings, or then the next step was the self-healing coatings. This was then the development over the years, and with that the number of lectures in the Eurocore grow. At the beginning we had 2 days, 3 days, and now we have even parallel sessions in the coatings Working Party with inorganic, organic, hybrid, sol gel, whatever. So that was the major change. However, on what is providing money to industry, this is more the boring stuff, the organic coatings or hot dip galvanizing. This is bringing money to industry. Others are still much in the research level, not yet on the detailed or concrete application level.
And do you see a future, or do you think that at some point we would be able to implement it at the industrial level?
Industry always asks, what is the benefit for us? Can it last longer? If it should last longer, we have to show evidence that it lasts longer. Corrosion protection is a very conservative market. So if you promise an owner of a building, if you use this pretreatment, you can't see it because it's nanoscale, but it gives you 20% of longer life. I'm sure nobody will pay for it, because now we have 20 to 40 years. If you say 10% longer life, it's hard to measure. So that's it. You cannot show evidence that you have really, instead of 20 years, 22 years. There are no testing available to show that. So the market is extremely conservative, and such scientifically highly interesting topics like nanoscale coatings, like sol gel, like self-healing. It's scientifically interesting, but very, very hard to get it into the market. So what was a key driver in the market is the change in regulation. That means we are not allowed anymore to use tar. Condensated aromatic hydrocarbons are banned. Now PFAS is also in the discussion. So the regulation is a much better driver of development in industry. That science is a driver, I have to admit.
Yeah.
We have a
Thomas?
question.
Yeah, from Thomas. Hi,
Thomas. Hi.
Hi, Jörg.
Hi, Thomas.
It was a very nice talk, and I really enjoyed it. I'm traveling, so I cannot switch on my camera because my surrounding is not really nice. But anyway, I have one question. I think that during your career, you in the same time you provided a lot of value to your company, but you were also able to do a lot of things aside. So you gave a lot of your time to EFC, you were active in the standardization and so on and so on. Is there any trick or any advice how to do this? How to make your company happy with such site activities?
Yeah, you have to have superiors which allow to do that. That was the case at the beginning in Stuttgart, the first 10 years before I moved to Zurich. There I had a boss who promoted me, who took me to all the conferences at the beginning in Germany, but he was also with me in Barcelona on the first Eurocore I participated, where we founded the working party coatings. So if you have a superior which supports you, it's easier. But then you have to find money for traveling. This was in the past not that difficult, getting more difficult nowadays. Yeah, and there is no way to get that level of freedom by your own. You need to have support from a superior. If you don't have the support, you don't have this level of freedom. And after 10 years in Stuttgart, I negotiated. When they moved me to Zurich, I negotiated and said, but I will continue this activity. And then my new boss said, okay, you can do it. And that's the reason why I have so much, why I had so much freedom to do such things. Yes, that at the end it helped a lot because I was able to advert extremely costly claim case. I'm not able to talk more about that, but I had the opportunity to find very good experts who showed evidence that we are not guilty for that claim case. And this network helped also indirectly, I have to say, yeah.
Yeah, so really the people around you or your superiors are the key here. So
yeah.
if you don't have such support, then maybe better to look for another job.
or to embrace your current situation. So it's also a possibility. And if you have family, I have no children, so it's was possibly easier for me to travel 3 to 4 months a year compared to others who have family. This I have to admit. Huh? It's also the private situation. Must fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gustav, do you want to go ahead?
Yes. Hello, Jörg. Thank you for the talk. Very interesting insights. But I have maybe a little bit more technical question because you expressed, if I understood well, some reservations about the use of impedance, and it feels like you've been using this technique from the very beginning. And I'm on the side of the, let's say, science where I feel like this technique is bit overused maybe, and I feel like you could provide some insight into where do you think the limits or where the usefulness meets the limit of these techniques, and where do you feel it the strongest or where it's properly put to use?
That would open a field of discussion for another 2 hours. I will try to keep short. To make a long story short, we have 4 impedance spectrometer in the company. So we use the technique. But you have to be fair. It is not a good question to compare a polyurethane coating with an epoxy coating. They have intrinsically a completely different response. So they have a different response to the electrolyte, and it is useless to compare an epoxy with a polyurethane using impedance spectroscopy. This is completely nonsense question. What is useful, you can do studies on the film properties after different cross-linking levels. So if you have resin and hardener, and sometimes one by one is not the best, because you have remaining amino groups or epoxy groups, and you can try to make different levels on cross-linking, let's say 95 to 105, 98 to 102. And So you have basically the same material, but different cross-linking levels. And to study this under electrolyte immersion conditions over a few days with impedance, for sure you will learn something. Also, the study of water on temperature cycles, we learned a lot. So we circled the we call it Bierwagen cycle, because Gordon Bierwagen was, guess, the first one who published this cycling of the temperatures. Had nothing to do with the beer in Germany. His name is Bierwagen, and he published that first, so 23 degrees, 55 degrees, 85 degrees. We kept it over the day, always 2 hours, and we measured after 2 hours the impedance spectra, and we found that the spectra were very reproducible over 5 days, over 5 of such cycles for good coatings, whereas the less good coatings accumulated water during these heating and cooling cycles, and that yielded in a very early degradation and very bad spectra after the second, third day already. So also resistance, again, some chemical mixtures, they need, of course, some conductivity, otherwise you cannot measure, but these things are possible. And what I completely not like is if somebody is, as I showed in my slides, if somebody is measuring, getting noisy curves and using 3, 4, 5 equivalent circuits in, and then tries to fit, and at the end somebody is claiming, but this CPE is representative for the dielectric constant or dielectric property of the, this is bullshit. This is completely bullshit. And then even discussing 30% shift over time, this is even bigger bullshit. So this is overdoing a technique which is nowadays easy to apply, but also easy to misuse. And I'm a fan of impedance because I steered all this standardization work. But my focus was always of getting reliable results and not over interpretation.
Okay, that's a very good answer. Thank you.
Welcome. If you want to discuss more on that, we can make a separate appointment. Yeah.
I have a follow-up question, Jörg. Are this round of measurements still currently performed, or when did you perform it? Because nowadays there are more and more, or basically the device or the instrument are getting with higher resolution, with broader range of measurement. Is this type of kind of round of measurement still performed? Or was that just...
What kind of measurement you mean? I haven't got that.
Like you make this round of measurement, this Robin...
round robin with the dummies.
Yeah. Yes.
No, that stopped, but you can do it on your own. You go on the electronic markets, buy a capacitor of 150 or 220 picofarad and measure that, and then you see what you have. It is very, very easy. And so, but it was astonishing to see even well-known and high-ranked research groups, not all of them, some of them, delivered really disastrous results. And I addressed at least one of the supervisors and said, look, you guys delivered this as a result. I assume they did not even connect the dummy cell to the spectrometer. And that supervisor did not looked at the results. The students did the measurement, they sent it out. So if you are not taking care on your results and you try to be accurate and to cross-check, then you're lost. Impedance is the best way to get lost. Lost in data, too much data.
No, I agree. Are there any other questions from the audience? Okay. Wait. You can unmute yourself. Cesar, unmute yourself to ask a question if you want.
I think I saw the question, how impedance is used in industry. For example, I know that Sherwin-Williams is using impedance spectroscopy, I think at least in the range of 9 labs across the globe. I know that Akzo Nobel is using impedance spectroscopy. So the big coating manufacturer using it. In the past, Corus, I think now it's Tata Steel in Netherlands, used it for their coil coatings. Also, car manufacturer, I know that Mercedes in Sindelfingen is operating impedance spectrometer. And I also know from from small startups that they try to develop small spectrometer which can be used remotely on bridges, on drilling towers offshore installations. So there is significant use of impedance. But yeah, sorry, yeah.
I think the question is not necessarily the use, but as well how accepted. Like it's more like kind of, is it really kind of recognized as a valid technique? You know, kind of. I know from my interaction with my industrial partner, they mostly do not know impedance, but they would prefer a potential dynamic curve because they know it. So how widely, like it's more like this, if you come with impedance spectroscopy, would that be kind of accepted as a measurement, or people are not really into it?
I think that industry is, especially coating industry, is very conservative. So if you want to start with impedance spectroscopy in the coating industry, you have to have a so-called business case. You must show an application where you have the benefits from it. And if you are lucky and you are allowed to buy such an instrument in industry, let's say after half a year or a year, you have to show evidence that you use it the correct way and that the company has a benefit out of it. And it's all about communication. So if you promise things which are not true, after 1 year, you are fired. That's okay, possibly not in Germany and Switzerland. They found a new position for you, but then at least after 1 year, the game is over. So yes, there is trust in measuring technique. Otherwise, we could throw cubicles or gamble in the gambling hall for our results. Sure, impedance, yeah, there's. Have I answered now correctly, or Noémie?
I think so. I don't know. But yeah, there was another.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. There was another question that popped out, which is, despite extensive research on coding for corrosion protection, why is there such low reproducibility in experimental data and result across studies?
That is, let's say I'm very open now. I think it's a lack of training. The people are not trained enough to recognize that what they are measuring is bullshit. That they misuse the instrument has a defect. The people are not skilled enough to recognize that the instrument has a defect. As the one measurement I showed you, where the plate was not even connected. These are things which, if you have well-trained people, that you realize that, you see that, and you can avoid that. This is one point. The next point is impedance is still by majority used in academia. In academia, the people are urged to publish. So you measure once, you do not repeat, you publish, and that contributes to a low reproducibility. Sorry. I'm from industry. I'm not from academia. I'm allowed to say that. I don't know why I'm allowed, but I do it.
I agree with you, and I'm working in academia, so yes. Does it answer the question? Probably, I would say yes. Yep, perfect. Yeah, go ahead, Vashak.
Can I have one more?
Sure.
I'm wondering, so I guess that the research at the industry company like yours works in some sort of manner that some portion of the research is done internally and some of it is externalized to academia or whatever. And I would like to explore a little bit how it works. So I guess there's like a board of scientific directors or something like that, which choose the principal topics. What I'm trying to add into that question is that you mentioned that where the money is, the impact is, and the things move generally. So how would you, maybe two-part question, how would you, how are the topics which are pursued by this Sika money, by this industrial money identified? And then, of course, secondarily, if I am, let's say, versed in organic coatings and I feel I could contribute, what would you feel is the best way in?
So I explain a little bit how R&D is organized in Sika. We have more than 20 technology centers across the globe, but we have the biggest facility here in Zurich. And we have core technologies. And these core technologies have their own development groups. Some are only in one place, some are in nearly each of the technology centers in those 20 technology centers. And in addition to what we have as development groups, we have a research department. And all the core technology have some counterparts in the research. And then the research, they are 2 to 5 years ahead of what is really a product development. They have the freedom to synthesize a new kind of hardener. They have the freedom to look for new binder systems or for new kind of admixtures to making better concrete for some certain application. So they are still, the research is still attached somehow to those core technologies, but they are not directly involved in daily business. And therefore they have also not the same number of staff. So if you have 10 in development, we are happy if we have 1 in research. I think it's about the relation. However, this gives us some freedom, and we do own research. We collaborate with universities and also other companies based on a non-disclosure agreement, confidentiality agreement, and yeah, then it works. So it's clear who contributes what and what is the outcome. That was the first part of the question, hopefully. And the second one was?
Well, what would be the way in if well, I'm not saying I am, but because I'm not really organic coating guy, but if I wanted a way in, what would be the...
as a person or as an institute?
Probably a small group or, well,
a small
individual.
Yeah. Yeah, we should, unfortunately, I'm retiring on 23rd of May, so the opportunity is small, but you can try to approach, for example, one of Sika people on a conference, talk to them, network, explain what you are doing, and yeah, and possibly there is a collaboration. Where are you from? In which university?
I'm colleague with Thomas. We sit in the same office.
Okay. So. Okay. So that is, yeah. We have Sika in the Czech Republic. So Yeah,
I was like aiming at the general rule, because these things are really different company to company, and you mentioned that self-healing and these I don't want to say far-fetched, but let's say more distant things in the organic coating. Well, you know, would there be a support for these topics, or is it limited? And you know, something like that. And I'm just exploring this question.
Maybe I can weigh in as well.
Sure.
In Switzerland, we are kind of lucky in the funding that we can get. So there is a scheme that is called InnoSwiss, which is for industrial research, where university, research institute, and company are working together on the development for innovation product, and industry have to show that through this project they will gain some market, which allow a bit, because it's mostly 2 years project, but it allow a lot of research development, and it can be externalized. So a lot of companies in Switzerland have this possibility as well to go into product development while being not fully funded by bilateral agreement. So they get some money from the Confederation to help business development within Switzerland. And I think that is a particularity of the funding scheme that we have in Switzerland. It helps companies as well in their research and development.
There is also a funding scheme in Denmark. There is funding scheme in Germany. They're all a little bit different, and because all the nations who know that they have to do something for the development of the industry, they are setting up such funding schemes. So quite different way of operate these funding schemes, but they are there, and the success rate depends on the country. I know that in Germany the success rate is not that high because there are too many people asking for money and the money is low, but now they have 500 billion more money. Possibly they can also spend a few billions for research, I don't know. Yeah, this is a good proposal, Noémie. Good point that you brought in here.
Okay, thanks. Thank you both.
I hope that answered your question. I think it was a bit kind of the direction as well, but I will say that it's not only within the company, but I think it allows a bit of freedom as well in the research and development. It's not only like market oriented or kind of target, it can be as well on the long term and allow a bit more flexibility.
Yeah, that funding schemes are supportive for project ideas which are quite far from a product. They assume that the research institutes can develop a certain basis of facts and knowledge, and then this knowledge is transferred to industry and they develop the product out of it. So this is the way it works. And this gives a formal way of approaching industry. The more informal is meeting people, talk to them, and get involved on a personal level. That also works.
Okay, are there any more questions? If not, I will say that we can close for today. Thank you again, Jörg.
Thank you. What a pleasure.